We love the game of cricket, don't we? Just as we were going to go on air and talk about the result of the toss, who's won it, what are the lineups, the rain gods decided to intervene. Just a few spots of rain at the iconic Eden Gardens means we've had a little bit of a delay. How much? We can't tell, even though I happen to be in Kolkata. I'm sorry that I can't really update you because I've tried looking out the window. It can be very isolated in this part of the city. The Eden Gardens is next to the river Ganges, and the weather can be a little different there from the residential areas down the road. But we'll bring it all to you. For now, it's time to say welcome to Cricbuzz Live for game number 2 in the playoff stage. And this one's an eliminator. A little bit of tension perhaps between all the teams out there. It's Bangalore taking on Lucknow. Only one will be standing at the end of tonight. Here on Cricbuzz Live, there's nobody going to be standing because we're all sitting, our panel, very comfortably to try and have a bit of a cricket chat. And for now, we're going to be winging it, gentlemen. Shaun Pollock, Ajay Jadeja. Ajay, weather's a strange thing, isn't it? As having played the game for so long, both of you, you'll know that sometimes just as you've pepped yourself up to get on the field, you feel a few drops.
Yeah, and at this stage of all prepared, and this is where people who like processes and like to have a process before the game starts and a 20-minute warm up or things like that. Players like that probably get more hassle. Certain people who don't care about processes are all okay. They just go off and they'll probably come back. So it could upset you at times. Especially the guys who have processes that they work towards.
What were you like, Shaun Pollock, when it suddenly started raining near the toss? Because we know what Rahul's like. He was taking selfies with Simon Dool.
Yeah, I think as a captain, what you want is to happen just before the toss, not after the toss. And once you've made your decision, sometimes rain, it can come for 2 or 3 hours, and then you make your decision that you want to maybe bat first, and then you really regret it, thinking now that it's been shortened and the game's been adjusted, we'd actually rather have a bat second. So, yeah, I think it is a frustrating part of cricket, and that's why I think the concept of the colonial stadium, as it was in my day when we were in Australia, where you were guaranteed, you rocked up at the ground and you were guaranteed for the game to take place, no matter whether it was snowing outside. I think that's going to be the future down the years. I think even when you get to these T20 tournaments, these T20 World Cups, even the World Cups, sometimes that rain comes and influences things in a bad way. But I think in this game, I think RCB, first of all, I think they are the most battle-hardened because they faced the elimination already. LSG was sort of qualified a while back. So I think they will be the team that's probably best prepared for this eliminator. But a question I've got for you, Gautam, is what's happened to the roof? The iconic Eden Gardens used to have a roof the whole way around, and it now looks like you guys have eliminated. Is it going back up? Is it just being reconstructed?
Well, it's not really a roof as such. It's just a bit of covering for a few spectators, but not quite the Colonial Stadium, as you mentioned, where we're still waiting to have a proper indoor stadium. We've seen a few of those, but it's an interesting talking point you bring up, Shaun. Ajay, is it really the future of this game, or is weather just such an integral part of it? Much like umpires, DRS is great. It's just about assisting them. So having maybe a little bit of help from the weather, like good super stoppers, good drainage, but not a full roof.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been an integral part of this game because, whether you talk of skills as well, I mean, seeing bowlers, they like certain days, when it's hot and when it's humid, actually, I always believe that when it's humid, it swings as well. So conditions have always been part of the game, but I'm totally with, Polikaka on that this is probably the future because, don't forget this game's run now, there's different reasons this game is played for. The economics has changed, the rights that we hear and the amount of money that's being paid for. And, imagine somebody's investing into this sport. And if you have a game with so many vulnerabilities, for the investors, it's something that they would want to see this. They'd want to, put in the money as well and make sure that, the game will happen no matter what happens. The game might change, which has changed with the DRS as well. A lot of people want certainty with the result because the ideal part of that game is gone. I mean, this whole thing about this sport was that it wasn't certain, whether it was the weather, whether it was, umpiring decision or, people like us making mistakes somewhere along the line, missing a full toss or bowling a wide ball. So all those things are trying to be eliminated. And amongst that, one thing that you can really control, you can't control the weather, but you can definitely control the stadium and have a covered stadium. It might offer us a different aspect to this game. We've only seen few games in Australia, one game in America. I remember when All Stars went, where you had the roofs covered. So there are different conditions. So maybe players will adapt, and we'll see a better form of this sport.
Did you use the word anishchit yesterday on the show?
Yeah, it is. This game is totally अनिश्चितताओं का खेल है. इसमें हर prediction fail है. That's where
हर
it comes from.
बिल्कुल हर prediction fail है. I'll get that right. अनिश्चितताओं की खेल है. Perfect. I'll get that right at some point. In fact, Shaun Pollock will also get that right, because we've been teaching him just a little bit of Hindi there. But you've picked up enough along the way, Shaun. But since you did mention the Colonial Stadium and playing indoors, I remember in 1994 in the World Cup, the Football World Cup, they played pretty much all the matches outdoors, but there was one indoor stadium and the teams didn't like it because it was hot, there was no air conditioning, and that can affect performance.
Yeah, it can. I'm just thinking where we went back. I mean, even the World Cup that we've last had. I mean, that game at Old Trafford with India having to come back the next day. I mean, scheduling it doesn't create the same vibe. I mean, particularly in these T20 tournaments, there isn't really too many spare days, is there? And when it gets to a final, say you have a final on a Sunday, for example, who comes to a final on a Monday? You want it to take place come hello high water. So, yeah, we've had issues over the years in the World Cups with regards to it. And I think the big challenge for roofs is the amount of sunshine that they allow onto the actual playing surface. That's why when you look at sports that play on AstroTurf, it's all good. It's no problem whatsoever, because that doesn't need sunshine to help the grass grow. But the challenges that they've done, I know a couple of rugby stadiums in New Zealand have now worked it out, where they can open their roof and they sort of angle it so that it gets the morning sunshine and it goes all the way until 4 o'clock, so that the ground gets plenty of sunshine. Because even when we played at the Colonial Stadium, it was a little bit slippery, and a lot of the players actually wore the soccer boots or the rugby boots to make sure in the outfield that they didn't slip. So it wasn't quite the same surface. But I just like the fact that when it's going to take place, it's going to take place. And you can almost bank on it and schedule on when it's going to take place. But you give us the insight. What's happening there with your weather? Pre-show, you were telling us the weather's looking good, and now all of a sudden we got rain.
It's looked good all day. I've been around the city. It's looked good all day. It's been a lovely day here in Kolkata, but cricket tends to do that. The weather tends to follow it. The clouds up there, like, oh, there's Eden Garden. What a lovely view from up here. Let's go and disturb them a little bit. Or we couldn't get tickets, so let's go and throw a few drops of rain down there. That tends to happen in the game of cricket. But Shaun, I won't talk any more about rain and World Cups. We promised that we wouldn't do that on the show, and we will not do that.
You can talk as much as you want. I'm well over it by this stage.
But what we will talk about is the playing conditions. What happens? First and foremost, of course, let's remind you, there is a reserve day for the final, but there are no reserve days for the matches before that, which is the Eliminator tonight, the qualifier yesterday. So if this match were completely washed out, which is unlikely to happen, then it would be Lucknow who would go through because of finishing ahead of Bangalore in the group stage. But in terms of playing conditions today, 9:45, I believe, is when we can, when we need to get a start, 9:40 to be exact. But Ajay, I don't think it's really going to come to that. Harsha's giving us updates, Simon's giving us updates, and it's just a light drizzle, and we should have a toss fairly soon.
Yeah, I mean, sitting here in Delhi, I mean, it's tough to say whether we'll have a game or not. I think we'll have to trust, Bade Bhai Harsha Bhogle and Simon Dole with what they're sending us. So I trust their opinion, and if they believe that the game will happen, we'll sit and wait.
But we'll talk
one thing that we can discuss is LSG, their tendency to want to bat first and how successful they've been batting first. But then there we have a look at the toss record. You see, batting first 8 games, they've won 7 of it, so 87%, and batting second, they've only won 33%. But when we were doing our research about the ground, the tendency as of late at Kolkata has actually been the sides batting second have been the ones that have dominated and won more of the game. So it's a bit of a conundrum for them. Do they go with their strength of runs on the board, batting first, particularly with the openers? Quinton de Kock and Rahul perform remarkably better when they actually bat first. I mean, their strike rates, their runs they accumulate, everything when they're posting it over has been fantastic. Do they want to change that? Do they think, well, even if it's a shortened game and maybe some of the overs are lost, do they decide they want to bat second? So I think it'd be more of a concern for Rahul now, sitting there worrying about what the rain isn't going to do compared to Faf du Plessis. I don't think they are that bothered. I mean, I think they would like to chase, but I don't think they're as bothered, and it doesn't suit their game plan as much as it does LSG.
Rahul's got a strike rate of 100, which isn't great when he's batting second. I mean, there are some players out there, Ajay, who we call them chase masters. Virat Kohli leads the way in that department. But KL Rahul, surprisingly, doesn't come across that way personality-wise. But if he just looked at his own record, he'd be like, I'd love to bat first. On the other hand, history tells you you've got to chase first. So what do you look at? Individual records, your team makeup, history, or just hope you lose the toss?
I mean, you don't never want to lose the toss because you want to make that call, and there is a slight advantage even if whether it's the conditions, whether it's the way you want to play, the way you pick your side. There are times you pick an 11 looking at different. So at least you would want to win the toss. I mean, looking at that graphic, I mean, did they win all those tosses? I think part of those times that they won batting first is when the opposition has put
Absolutely.
you in.
Pretty much, I think every time.
And I think when you look at this record, it tells you that you should bat first. And I've always been a bat first person because I feel batting first is always easier on at least the batting order. I don't know how the bowlers feel, but batters always feel I don't know whether it's easier or simpler, or I think it's less complicated because as it is as a batsman, your mind is complicated. You've got so many thoughts going, and then you've got this whole target business that you've got. So batting first makes sense that. But looking at IPL over the years, I think all captains, I mean, at the end, the numbers are not so skewed. But every captain that you ask, every coach, they all want to chase. So, look at 70 games. I would look at 70 games and see, how many times did teams winning the toss batted first would be not more than 10, 12, 15. I don't know the number, but we'll find out. So say take 15 out of that. So you got 55 games where the teams have won the toss and have batted first. Batted second. They've chosen to do that, but not have ended up winning all those games. Winning is not as skewed as how people make decisions. So, I'm a bat first, person. I believe batting first is always an advantage because you set the pace. You don't hold anything back. Whatever your batting lineup has, and most teams have 6, 7, 8 batters. So when you have that batting lineup with you, you don't have to hold back. Whereas when you're chasing a total, we saw that yesterday, day before, even a 150, 160 total, you still leave 5 overs 50. You don't end up, chasing it down quicker. One game, Livingston probably finished it in 15 overs. But 9 out of 10 games in IPL go down to 5 overs 50, no matter what the total is. So, batting first, I would look at it that way. Numbers, yes, they tell you a story and they're facts and they're past. But, we're talking about the game next or, any team. In that case, is what do they do? I don't know whether they would look at numbers and do it. Because if you're looking at numbers and learning from that, then you're already late because the game is game's always moving on.
I think what I would add to we've got the toss.
No, we haven't got the toss. I've just got.
We've got all day Polykaga today.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm on Dul's posting pictures. Okay, but what I would add to that, I actually gave it some thought the other day. And I was trying to work it out. And I think, in my time and maybe AJ, your time as well, what you would have is you'd maybe have 1 or 2 individuals in the side that had that ability to be massively destructive at the back end. So in my time, we had someone like a Lance Klusener, and New Zealand would have had like someone like a Chris Cairns, for example. And I just think that the modern game, where it's moved now, is it actually doesn't matter which personnel are at the crease. All of them can strike it like a Pollard. So that's what I'm saying. The importance of a Pollard and a Dre Russ in the old days was massive, even like 3 or 4 years ago, because They were the only ones who could be as destructive. But now what you're finding is the new brigade, everyone's learned the art of how to be effective, how to go 10, 11, 12 and over. And that's why there's a little bit more confidence, I think, at being able to chase. Because, when they look at a target of 12 or 14 and over, that doesn't seem like a massive thing. I mean, even David Miller, and he was in good touch yesterday, but they take it down to 16. At no stage did he feel the pressure. Every once in a while they get it wrong and a team wins. But even most of these teams these days believe, even when your Rashid Khan comes to the crease at number 9 or 10 or whatever it may be, he's still got that ability to whack it out the ground. And I think that's where it's changed. But for RCB, once they knew they had qualified, I think a lot of their discussion and a lot of their planning would have been around the top 2 for LSG, De Kock and KL Rahul. I mean, they have just been brilliant, and it's all about how effectively can they be in that first power play. And I think that's going to be the focus for them. Is it going to be an over from Maxwell to De Kock tonight? Are they looking to get other individuals back into the side? I'm having a blank now. Siraj, are they looking to get him back in? Because we had a look at the stat, and I think we might even have a graphic about it, that when they pick up 1 wicket in the power play, then that means that one of Quinton de Kock or KL Rahul go on and play an innings. LSG end up invariably winning. When they pick up 2 or sometimes 3, then LSG are under immense pressure. So the big focus, I think, for RCB would have been, let's dedicate all our commitment and plan into that initial power play. If we win that power play when they bat, we're basically on target to go and win the game. So that's interesting. I think we might have a graphic there about how they've performed, and we can see the facts and figures. I don't know if the guys have got it there to be able to pull up, but it wasn't interesting.
We've got a very efficient team there. There you go. Wickets lost in power play. Look at that. 0 or 1 wickets. Guess what? Lovely green color. And the moment it's 2 or more, I mean, you'd say this, Ajay, necessarily about a lot of teams, but Lucknow in particular, because of the dominance of a KL Rahul and a Quinton de Kock, have suffered with this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Gautam, because I think you could say that with most teams, more so with this team, is because if you look at this side, I mean, compared to, say, today we've got a game on the other side, which is RCB. Even RCB has 2 formidable openers, but you still look at people like Maxwell or, DK coming at 8 and doing the job as well. Whereas with LSG, when you go past that, opening slot, where do you go? I mean, they've changed a few. When Evan Lewis was doing well, while he was playing, that's fine. But when he wasn't playing, so you had Huda who came in, who got runs. But when he got runs, he didn't, take his side through till the end. Then you've got Kunal Pandya playing in a while, this cameo little knocks 20, 30s, 40s, and everybody else. And at the beginning, Stoinis wasn't even, coming up the order. So he was being left with too much to do, or he wasn't on strike enough. And Jason Holder can bat. Everybody can bat, but they're not the players who, when you're 30 for 3 down, you don't see any one of them taking you through from there. They're all players when, like what Polikaka said, the ability today for people to strike at 10 and over for 2 overs, everyone's got it. But strike at 7 and over for 16 overs, I don't see many in that lineup. So maybe that graphic emphasizes that as well and shows you that these are the 2 guys where you need 6, 7, 8 and over. Yes, these openers can take you through, but everybody after that can take you through even at 12 and over, but not for longer than, say, 4 overs or 3 overs. Or there's nobody who's going to take you through 16 overs or 15 overs till the end, even if it's 8 and over. So I think that graphic actually proves that as well. And I think that's the case with most teams.
Yeah, that's just a little teaser of what we have coming up, because just a reminder to all of you, there has been a delay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our little breather. We're going to take a leaf out of Simon Doole's book. I'm going to figure out the art of taking selfies. There's a nice one. That's perfect. And we let all of you have a little breather. Keep your notifications on, because we're going to be back as soon as we know exactly what time the toss is starting. And we presume it'll be either 20 or 30 minutes after that the game begins. So we'll be back to continue our analysis, conversation, chat about every subject under the sun. For now, from Shaun Pollock, Ajay Jadeja and myself, it's just a little breather from Cricbuzz Live. We'll be back soon.